Hi everyone, welcome to the presentation for our AltCHI paper titled CHI2023 Decisions on Paper 42 for CHI2023, a playful twist on the peer review process and methodological gaslighting, written collaboratively by Tessa, Leya, Breanna, Baltaxe-Admony, Lee Tabor, and Kate Ringland from University of California, Santa Cruz, and the Misfit Lab. So for a hypothetical scenario, we have a point of view of an ethnographer and a machine learning researcher, a statistician perhaps, and they both receive an email for a request to review. So in this example paper, they both receive a request to review the paper, A Digital Ethnography of Social Media Community. Both of them think about it, as we all probably do, look at the abstract, and then they both decide to accept. I'm sure there are many reasons that go into accepting and rejecting a review request. However, what could go wrong in this situation? Has this happened to you? You get a request to review a paper with a topic or methodology you know little about or covered in one day of grad school methods years ago. Your paper is reviewed by people who don't seem to understand your methods but think they do and think that you did it wrong, or you felt like the reviewer did not read the same paper that you wrote and submitted. If that's the case, you may be entitled to financial compensation. Just kidding. But you aren't alone in these experiences of peer review challenges. So, the goals of our paper are not to widen the existing divide between methodological camps. We all have our strengths and mixed methods, but to promote discussion around feedback that is being given in the reviews that we are receiving at ACM venues and specifically CHI. Another goal is to discuss how we can be more intentional with our reviewing practices. And we would like to note that these issues are not limited to qualitative researchers, but we write from our recent experiences with our qualitative submissions. So this paper and presentation, these are intended to be educational and to give a brief introduction to a discussion of ethics, positionality, and community-based work as they have appeared in our own reviews, as well as broader academic discussions. And we feel these are sections that belong in all work, no matter the type. We also hope that this paper is reflective in that we aim to stimulate discussion around the peer review process and how to hopefully make it better going forward. And our paper is intended to be humorous without malintent and without pitting methodological camps against each other. I'm sure we all have experiences with the so-called reviewer 2. And here is an example of a review commentary that we received on a qualitative community-based paper. So the reviewer said, "Why did you not use statistics or machine learning on a qualitative community-based paper?" And then suggested that this paper was not suitable for CHI due to the exclusion of these. So in terms of positionality and methodology clashes, a few points. So the people fighting to change problematic systems are typically the ones being hurt by those systems. This work is the result of many discussions and frustrations with the peer review process within the field of HCI that our lab has been having over the past few years. As primarily qualitative researchers, we have found our work to be taken less seriously and often misunderstood by reviewers who have little experience with our chosen methods. This is not to say all of the reviewers have done this, but we have seen this more often than not in our work. And intentional work, especially qualitative, is slow work that takes longer than some people may like, and it can be demoralizing to receive reviews from researchers that have a fundamental misunderstanding of our or your methodological approaches and have to extensively justify why our work is CHI enough. The peer review process can be especially important for early career researchers. So younger academics may feel pressure or guilt to accept a review request despite knowing little about the topic. Earlier stage academics in particular can be most harmed by not having access to appropriate reviews. So I'm sure we, along with many others we have spoken to, seem to dread getting paper reviews back as they are often written in unhelpful or unkind ways. And again, this is not saying that everyone is doing this, but we have experienced this. And labs we've worked in have developed group rituals for dealing with the emotional work of parsing overly critical reviews. And we feel this process can dissuade people from pursuing or continuing work in higher education. And in fact, there's little to no incentive to review papers other than your papers being reviewed in turn, which is obviously a big incentive. However, there are systemic issues with number of reviewers and number of willing reviewers that we'll get into on the next part. So reviewers and paper chairs are overburdened and tired. People are inundated with requests to review, and interestingly, researchers often receive little to no training before being expected to carry out a review. The process also varies across submission types and venues. So even within CHI, so the AltCHI peer review process is very different than the technical paper review process. We've found that critical reviews without substantive feedback are common, and this is echoed in the parody reviews that we've written in our paper. As mentioned before, early career researchers may be pushed out of the field by overly critical reviews that focus on the wrong parts of the work. Also, we've found conflicts of interest can impact the reviewer pool, and this disproportionately affects budding or marginalized CHI communities where the pool of collaborators is often more tenuous or limited, such as in the accessibility track. An example of a potential way forward is taken from the reviews we received for our AltCHI paper. So 5 researchers took it upon themselves to co-write a collaborative review for our submission. So they connected in the discussion forum on PCS, and then they co-wrote in a Google Doc and uploaded it to PCS for us to review, and it was co-signed by all 5 of them. These 5 researchers also suggested in their review a few next steps for the community. So they suggested first mapping out common reviewing pitfalls, and second, taking inspiration from other domains venues that utilize alternative peer reviewing processes. So some of the questions that we have for discussion and in general are around what makes one reviewer an expert versus very knowledgeable, and what are they an expert in? Is it the research area, the method, the theory, or just their position at their institution? Being an expert in a research area does not automatically make one an expert in a given method used in said topic. However, these expertise levels can be confusing, especially for earlier career researchers and grad students. We would like to thank all of the reviewers that took time to engage with our work, and we would love to hear comments, experiences with CHI reviews, and any questions that may have